Hello and thank you for joining us for another episode of Creation Conquest. In tonight's episode, we're going to actually cover 10 problems with the Big Bang Theory. 10 fundamental underlying problems. This is by no means exhaustive, but these alone show that it's an impossible theory and it's ridiculous fantasy. You know, it's important that we give God credit for the creation. Jesus in John 5:46 says, "Had ye believed in the writings of Moses, you would have believed in me, for he wrote of me. But if you not believed in him, how should you believe in me?" By the way, Moses wrote Genesis. God created the earth, the heavens, the universe, and everything in it. And it's important as Christians that we give him that credit. And it's just as important as Christians that we know how to proselytize to non-Christians and to those who are in the dark so that they can see the light. So moving on, let's go ahead and move into the Big Bang Theory. If you're not familiar with it, the Big Bang Theory was created, I guess the originator would be George Lemaitre, Belgian, struck on the idea in 1927. Later after that, George Gamow, with the help of some others, around 1948, devised the basic Big Bang model, and he was actually the one that kind of brought it to popularity. He was a well-known scientist as well as a science fiction writer. The Big Bang Theory has been accepted by a majority of scientists today. It theorizes a large quantity of nothing decided to pack tightly together and then exploded outward into hydrogen and helium. This gas is said to have flowed throughout the frictionless space, frictionless so the outflowing gas cannot stop or slow down. And eventually this created all of the planetaries, everything in the universe by this Big Bang Theory. So some problems with the Big Bang Theory, and there are many. Well, let's just start off with the first. Number one, it's based on theoretical extremes. It may look good in math calculations, but it can't actually happen. A tiny bit of nothing packed so tightly together that it blew up and produced all the matter in the universe? Seriously now, this is a fairy tale. It's a bunch of armchair calculations and nothing else. It is easy to theorize on paper, but the Big Bang Theory is just that. It's a theoretical extreme, just like a black hole. It's easy to say something's true when it's never been seen and there is no definitive evidence that it exists or has even ever happened. Let's not confuse this with science. Number two, nothingness cannot pack together. Nothingness has nothing to push itself into a pile. There is nothing to pack. So that's number two. Number three, a vacuum has no density. It is said that the nothingness got so very dense, and that's why it actually exploded. It was because it just packed into such a tight, dense ball that it exploded. But a total vacuum is the exact opposite of total density. This is science. Number four, there would be absolutely no ignition to explode this nothingness. You gotta remember, there's nothing. Now, there's no fire, there's no match. It could not have been a chemical explosion, for no chemicals existed. It couldn't be a nuclear explosion, for there were no atoms. Yet, somehow this nothingness just packed tightly and blew up. Number five, there's no way to expand it. How can you expand what's not there? Even if there was a magical vacuum and it could have somehow pulled this together by gravity, that same very gravity that pulled it together would prevent it from expanding. Once again, science, basic. Number six, nothingness cannot produce heat. The intense heat caused by the exploding nothingness is said to have changed the nothingness into protons, neutrons, and electrons. First, an empty vacuum in the extreme cold of outer space cannot get hot by itself. Second, an empty void cannot magically change itself into matter. And third, there can be no heat without an energy source. Yet in the beginning there was nothing, so therefore there was no energy. Seven, and this is somewhat similar to number one, the calculations are way too exacting. Too perfect an explosion would be required. On many and most points, the theoretical mathematical calculations needed to turn the Big Bang into stars and our planets cannot be worked out. They're absolutely impossible. In the other cases, they're way too exacting. Knowledgeable scientists call them too perfect. Mathematical limitations would have to be met, which would be next to impossible to achieve. The limits for success are simply just too narrow. Number eight, such an equation would have produced not a universe, but a whole. Roger St. Peter in 1974 developed a complicated mathematical equation that showed that the theorized Big Bang could not have exploded outward into hydrogen and helium. In reality, St. Peter says the theoretical explosion, if one could possibly take place, would actually fall back in on itself and make a theoretical black hole. This means that one imaginary object would swallow another one. Number 9, there's not enough antimatter in the universe. This is a huge problem for the theorist. The original Big Bang would have produced equal amounts of positive matter and negative matter, and matter and antimatter. But only small amounts of antimatter exist. There should be just as much antimatter if the Big Bang was true. And number 10, or actually let me elaborate a little further on that. Since matter and antimatter are equivalent in all respects, but that of electromagnetic charge, oppositeness, any force, i.e. the Big Bang, that would create one should have to create the other. And the universe should be made of equal quantities of each. This is a huge dilemma. Theory tells us there should be antimatter out there, and observation refuses to back it up. That's from Isaac Asimov, New Guide to Science. Number 10, the antimatter from the Big Bang would have actually destroyed all the regular matter. This fact is well known to physicists. As soon as the two are produced in a laboratory, they instantly come together and annihilate one another. This is 10 fundamental problems with the Big Bang Theory. It's pretty straightforward and clear. But I mean, in all honesty, if you just listen to the theory in itself, it's ludicrous. Many atheists or non-Christians will tell us, that we're just living in a fantasy world and we're just fooling ourselves by believing the creation story in the Bible. Yet they're willing to accept a belief that nothing came together and created everything. I gotta tell you, that sounds more like a fantasy. Everything I witness in this world is a creation. And everything that we can witness, even in a scientific laboratory or observation, is creation. We've never seen life brought forth by non-life. We've never seen anything created out of nothing. Spontaneous combustion, spontaneous generation, this is all works of Hollywood and science fiction. We don't see it. We've never seen it. Sure, we can imagine all kinds of great and fantastical things. The simple truth is that we have the answers, and they're found in Genesis. God created the heavens and the earth. God created everything in it. He is the creator. All things exist in Him. So I encourage you to get out there and help spread the word. Until next time, this is Shane Blevins. This was another episode of Creation Conquest.